No one expected that a small boy's simple note would silence the massive crowd and draw Tom Hanks into a deeply personal tale of pain and healing. What unfolded next left thousands moved beyond words. It was a crisp autumn evening in Pasadena, California, the kind where the air carried a hint of eucalyptus and the sky glowed orange over the Rose Bowl Stadium. The stands buzzed with anticipation. A crowd of thousands gathered not for a football game, but for a rare event, an evening with Tom Hanks, where the beloved actor would share stories from his career and life. The stadium, usually alive with cheers, hummed with a quieter energy. Chairs creaked, programs rustled, and voices murmured in excitement. The stage was modest for such a grand venue. A single stool, a microphone stand, and a large screen behind it flashing iconic images from Forrest Gump, Saving Private Ryan, and Toy Story. Tom Hanks stepped out to thunderous applause, his familiar grin lighting up the night. At 69, his hair was grayer, his gait a touch slower, but his warmth was unmistakable. He waved, cracked a few jokes about the size of the crowd. "I feel like I should be throwing a touchdown here," and settled into his storytelling rhythm. The audience leaned in, expecting tales of Hollywood and laughter. But among them sat a figure who didn't quite fit. 10-year-old Ethan, clutching a crumpled piece of paper in his small, sweaty hands. Ethan wasn't there by chance. He'd begged his dad to bring him, not because he loved Hanks's movies, though he did, but because of something deeper. The note in his hands was a question he'd written weeks ago, after a late-night talk with his dad about loss. It was scrawled in messy pencil, folded and unfolded so many times the creases were soft. His dad, a single parent with tired eyes, had warned him, "You'll need to be brave, buddy. It's a big crowd." Ethan had nodded, his heart thumping. He didn't know if he'd get the chance, but he had to try. What was on that note? And why did it matter so much? As the evening wore on, Hanks regaled the crowd with anecdotes. The time he improvised a line with Woody's voice, the chaos of filming Cast Away. The stadium laughed, clapped, hung on his every word. But the energy shifted when the host announced a Q&A. A line formed quickly, adults with rehearsed questions about Oscars and directors. Ethan hesitated, his sneakers scuffing the concrete. His dad gave him a gentle push. "Go on, Eth. You've got this." The boy swallowed hard and joined the line, the note trembling in his grip. What would he ask? And how would Hanks react? The crowd barely noticed him at first, a skinny kid in a faded hoodie, dwarfed by the adults ahead of him. But as he shuffled closer to the microphone, whispers started. People craned their necks. Who was this boy? What was he holding? When his turn came, the stadium's chatter faded. Ethan stepped up, his voice shaky but clear. "Mr. Hanks," he said, unfolding the note with trembling fingers. "My mom died 2 years ago. I miss her every day. How do you keep going when someone you love is gone?" The question hit like a thunderclap. 50,000 people fell silent, eyes locked on the stage. What would Hanks do? Tom Hanks, a man who'd faced countless cameras and crowds, froze. His grin faded, replaced by something raw. Shock, maybe, or recognition. He stepped closer to the edge of the stage, peering down at Ethan. The boy's wide, glistening eyes met his, and for a moment the massive stadium felt like a quiet room with just the two of them. The note fluttered in Ethan's hands, but he didn't look away. The crowd held its breath. Would Hanks deflect with a quip? Brush it off? Or was this about to go somewhere no one expected? "That's a hell of a question, kid," Hanks finally said, his voice softer than usual, tinged with a gravelly edge. He pulled the stool closer and sat, leaning forward, hands clasped. "What's your name?" "Ethan," the boy replied, barely audible. Hanks nodded, a faint smile flickering. "Ethan, you're braver than I was at your age, asking that out here." The crowd murmured, a ripple of awe spreading. But then Hanks grew quiet, his gaze drifting somewhere far off. What was he thinking? Was he stalling or remembering? He took a deep breath, the microphone catching the sound. "When I was a little older than you," he began, "I lost someone too. My grandma, Ruth. She wasn't just family, she was my rock. Raised me when my parents couldn't. She'd sit me on her lap, tell me stories about the old days, make me laugh when I didn't want to." He paused, rubbing a hand across his jaw. Then one day, she was gone. Heart attack. I was 14, and I didn't know how to keep going either. The stadium was pin-drop silent. Hanks, the everyman hero, was peeling back a layer no one had seen. But where was this going? Ethan shifted, clutching the note like a lifeline. The crowd leaned in, sensing the weight of the moment. Hanks continued, his voice steady but thick. "I was mad, Ethan. Mad at her for leaving. Mad at the world for letting it happen. I'd walk by her house. Couldn't go in and just sit on the curb, kicking rocks. Felt like a piece of me was gone forever." He looked at Ethan again, eyes softening. "Sound familiar?" Ethan nodded, a tear slipping down his cheek. The crowd felt it too. Some dabbed their eyes, others gripped their seats. What had started as a simple question was becoming something bigger, but Hanks wasn't done. "I didn't figure it out right away," he said. "Took years, but one day I was working on a movie, big, maybe, and I heard her voice in my head, 'Tommy, don't waste it.' That's what she'd say when I moped around, and I realized she wasn't really gone. She was in me, in the stories I tell, the way I try to make people laugh or feel something. She's still here because I carry her." He tapped his chest, a small, firm gesture. "You carry your mom too, Ethan. In your heart, in that question you asked me tonight." The boy's shoulders shook, and the stadium blurred with quiet sobs. But what came next? Hank stood, stepping off the stage and into the aisle. The crowd gasped as he walked toward Ethan, kneeling to meet him eye to eye. "You're not alone in missing her," he said, voice low but clear through the mic. "And you don't have to be alone in keeping going. You've got your dad, your friends, and now you've got me too." He pulled a pen from his pocket, scribbled something on Ethan's note, and handed it back. What did he write? The boy stared at it, then threw his arms around Hank's, burying his face in the actor's shoulder. The stadium erupted. Applause, cheers, tears flowing freely. But the moment didn't end there. A man in the stands stood, his voice cutting through the noise. "Mr. Hanks, I lost my son last year. How do you carry that?" Heads turned. Another woman rose. "My sister's gone 5 years. I still can't talk about it." More voices joined, a chorus of pain and hope. Hanks climbed back on stage, motioning for quiet. "You all," he said, voice cracking, "you're why I'm up here. We carry them together. In the stories we share, the questions we ask. Ethan showed us that tonight." He pointed to the boy, now back with his dad, clutching the note. What had shifted in that stadium? The host tried to wrap up, but the crowd wouldn't let it end. People stood, hugging strangers, sharing whispers of their own losses. Hanks lingered, waving as he left, but his eyes kept finding Ethan. The boy looked up at his dad, voice small. "Mom would have liked him, huh?" His dad smiled, tears streaking his face. "Yeah, bud, she would have." As the stadium emptied, the energy lingered, a quiet, collective healing sparked by one curious note. What did Hanks write? A phone number, a promise. "Call me when you need to talk." And for thousands, the night became a memory they'd carry forever, proof that even in loss, connection endures. If you made it this far, I've got one question for you. Is there someone that you carry with you, in your heart? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. And if you found this story worth your time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. There's always another story to tell, and I'll be here to share it with you. Until next time.